I'm Mary Jordan, editor of Washington Post Live, the division of the newspaper that hosts forums and conferences. Today, our media partners are WUSA Channel 9, which is broadcasting this live, and WAMU 88.5, which will air it tonight at 8 p.m. We are also streaming live right now at the WashingtonPostLive.com, and we're encouraging viewers to submit questions, and some of them we'll pose to the candidates over the next hour. Thank you, Governor Martin O'Malley and former Governor Robert Ehrlich, for coming today to answer our questions, just 19 days before voters go to the polls and decide which of you will be the governor for the next 4 years. This is a matchup of two people very familiar with each other. Martin O'Malley, a Democrat who's been governor of Maryland since 2007, and Bob Ehrlich, the Republican who was the governor from 2003 to 2007. I guess you really like this job, both of you.
Some would question our sanity.
I will moderate today's debate, and I'm joined on the panel by two well-known broadcast journalists, Derek McGinty, anchor of WUSA 9, and Matt Bush, WAMU 88.5's Maryland reporter. Our debate will last 1 hour, and we have a large live audience here at the Washington Post building, and we've asked them to please hold their applause until the end. The candidates have kindly agreed not to filibuster and to cut their remarks when we've asked them to move on. I thank you in advance for trying to be succinct. We know that politicians and reporters can talk, and both of us, all of us, will try to keep on point. So now we're going to start with opening statements of 1 minute and 30 seconds. Governor O'Malley won the coin toss and elected to go second. So, Governor Ehrlich.
Mary, thank you. I want to thank the sponsors of this debate, particularly the Post. Derek, good to see you. Mary, Matt, thank you very much. I have brought two ladies with me today that are integral to my life. Mary Kane, our Lieutenant Governor, who's sitting in the front row here. Mary, thank you for being here. And my First Lady, the best, Kendall Ehrlich. Thanks, babe, for being here. We only have a minute for opening statements, and we'll get into the substance of this debate. I want to be governor. Again, I love this state. And it's important, obviously, because governors are quite impactful, 6.5 million people in the state of Maryland. We have different definitions of progress in this state. Over the past 4 years, we've seen a lot of job loss in this state. We've doubled unemployment. We've had 3,000 small businesses shuttered. We've had the largest tax increase in Maryland history, and we've driven debt to historic highs. I believe we can do better. We have done better during our tenure. We can create jobs, we can lower taxes, and we can retire our debt. The bottom line to today's debate is all about who you trust. We've seen a lot of negative ads out there. It's a silly time. Some of these ads are just over the top. And we're going to talk about those ads today, and that's why, Mary, I really appreciate the opportunity to have this wonderful confrontation, this real debate about the issues of the day and some of the ads that have been running.
Thank
Who do you trust?
Okay.
Who do you trust to lead this state forward over the next 4 years? It was my great pleasure and honor, humble, obviously, to represent the state from 2003 to 2007. Governor, thank you for being here today. I look forward to our debate this morning at the Washington Post.
Thank you, Governor O'Malley.
Mary, thank you, and thank you to my wife Katie and my kids for being here as well. I want to begin by thanking the people of Maryland. I want to thank you for giving me the honor of serving you during these very challenging and difficult times for every Maryland family and every Maryland business. But as this national recession comes to a close, Maryland is moving forward. We are creating jobs again, and we're creating them here in Maryland by retooling our economy through innovation and education, and we're doing it better than most states, but we have a lot of hard work ahead of us. That's why you have an important and clear choice to make at a very critical time. The choice is whether we move forward to better days or whether we slip back. And I humbly ask for your support to move Maryland forward. Every decision that I have made over the course of these last 4 years and moving forward will be based on one interest and one interest only, and that is what is best for the people of Maryland. I have fought every battle on your side, standing up to big banks and big mortgage companies, for moms and dads that are fighting to keep their homes out of foreclosure, standing up to big utility companies for Maryland consumers. With fiscal discipline and decisiveness, we have cut state spending more than any other governor has over a 4-year period of time. And more importantly, we've brought people together in the center to protect the very priorities that allow us to make this transformation, this change into a new economy, with improving education, making college more affordable, investing in innovation, making the tough decisions guided by science that are working to improve the health of the Chesapeake Bay, and advancing a vision for transportation that includes mass transit so that we can grow in smarter, cleaner, greener, more sustainable ways. I love our state. I'm optimistic about the better future you and I have the ability to achieve for our children by moving forward now. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Great. So now we're going to begin with a series of questions on jobs and the economy in general. This is, again, by coin toss. This first question will be first answered by Governor O'Malley. Voters have been very clear about one thing. They want more jobs. Can each of you tell us what is something new, what is your best, most innovative idea for creating new jobs? Again, something new, something that's not out there right now. Governor O'Malley.
We're doing a number of things to harness this innovation economy in our state, Mary. We sit in a corridor of science, discovery, healing, innovation, and learning, the likes of which, with a quality of life like we have, exists in few other places. So we have to create jobs, save jobs, and we have actually been holding on to our job base better than most states, and we have now started to create new jobs. In fact, this year so far, we have had the best year so far of net new job creation that we've had since the year 2000.
Can we talk about a specific, something that you're going to do that we haven't seen now to get more people employed?
Yes.
Okay.
and the part of the reason for this, I mean, the private sector is where jobs are created, but there's things that we have now done as a state, and we've done them in advance of other states. We created a $5,000 tax credit for any business, large, medium, or small, that hires a Marylander off the unemployment rolls and gets them back to work. We have also been pushing a new idea of Invest Maryland, where we allow large insurance companies to forward pay their tax liabilities at a discount, and then we invest those into creating more venture capital in the Maryland Venture Fund for startup businesses in our state. We have also put together the largest public-private partnership that any state closed last year in order to modernize the Port of Baltimore so that when the bigger ships can come through the Panama Canal, they don't pass by Maryland, but instead Maryland becomes a winner in global trade and a winner in this new economy. So those are a number of things, along with increasing our biotech tax credit, extending the sunset on our research and development tax credit, and we have also launched an initiative called Bio 2020, which is a $1.3 billion vision to increase Maryland's lead in biotechnology. We've moved up in the course of this recession from 4th place to 2nd place in biotech and the jobs being created at places like MedImmune and Human Genome Sciences. And now we have the opportunity to do the same thing where cybersecurity is concerned. Senator Mikulski is part of this vision, and we're moving forward together to make sure the jobs of the future stay here in Maryland and are filled with Maryland workers.
Thank you very much.
The short answer is a small business bill of rights, because small business people are being hammered in the state of Maryland today. And you know it. We've lost jobs. We've lost private sector jobs. We've been hammered. We have the most hostile business environments in this country. We're now rated close to 50 by any number of rating agencies with regard to our business climate. I've had 70 to 75 small business roundtables around the state of Maryland over the past year. Thousands of small business people have stepped forward with regard to your agencies. They're getting hammered. They're treated like a sheriff, not as a partner. When you call a state agency, when you ask a state agency for help, you should be treated as a partner. For the bad folks out there, the cowboys, we have the Attorney General. Most small business people are interested in making a buck, creating a business, expanding their business, creating jobs in the state of Maryland. We've lost jobs in this state. We've doubled our unemployment rate. We have 3,000 small businesses shuttered over the past couple years. We passed the largest tax increase in Maryland history. We have the most hostile regulatory, tort, and tax environments in this country. With regard to the R&D tax credit, research and development, and the biotax credit, Governor O'Malley, they were our initiatives.
So can you talk about what you would do as governor to create jobs?
A small business bill of rights with regard to the impact that these agencies have on business people and entrepreneurs in our state. Small business should be able to get a consistent answer and a quick answer. The feedback from the private sector today is, We don't get those answers. We don't get consistent answers. We get hostility. Our unemployment trust fund is broken. The regulatory environment, which is directly the responsibility of the governor, not the legislature, it's the executive branch of government, it is very broken in our state, and that's not my opinion, Mary. That is the direct feedback from the small business community in the state. They deserve a small business bill of rights. They deserve to have time frames put on state officials to give them consistent answers with regard to their questions about state regulation and state law.
Thank you.
Governor O'Malley, I want to follow up on something that Governor Ehrlich said in terms of Maryland ranking. In terms of your tax friendliness to business, you are ranked 45th, according to the Tax Foundation. Virginia, right next door, is ranked 15th, for example. Virginia's unemployment rate is 4.8%. Yours is 5.3, a half point higher. If you're going to be a jobs governor, shouldn't you be friendlier to business in your state?
Well, we are friendly to business. In fact, were it not for business, none of us would be able to protect our homes and have jobs. I think the best indicator of whether a state is good for business is whether or not, as we come out of this recession, we're actually creating jobs, whether we're making the investments and protecting the investments in the greatest asset that an innovation economy has, and that is our people. All of these rankings, let me give you a couple more rankings. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, now hardly a mouthpiece for the Maryland Democratic Party, said that Maryland ranks one of the top 2 best states in America for innovation and entrepreneurship. The Kauffman Foundation says that Maryland ranks 3rd on their New Economy Index. That is the ability to create and save jobs into this new economy. So if you stack up Maryland's job retention over these recent years, we have held on to our job base better than most other states, including better than Virginia. If you look at this year so far, we are creating jobs at a faster clip, faster than Virginia. So we are in a strong region. What we're not in competition with is the past. We're in competition to win the future. And there's going to be states that win and states that lose in this competition. And the ones that win will be those that protect their investments in the skills of their people, in making college more affordable rather than jacking it up 40% as my predecessor did. They will be the states that understand that innovation is what is going to create jobs for the future. And if our people are going to fill those jobs, we have to constantly be improving education and creating more affordable college opportunities.
Derek, let me...
Excuse me, Matt's going to ask.
Okay. This question is for Governor Ehrlich. If you return to Annapolis, you have proposed repealing the sales tax increase that Governor O'Malley approved. That would mean a drop in revenue of hundreds of millions of dollars in the state. Give some specifics on how you will fill in that drop.
Well, let me take both questions together because they're very relevant. Our business environment has gotten hammered. Those numbers that you suggest are true. We're a flyover state for corporate headquarters. Virginia Chamber of Commerce made fun of us when we passed the tech tax, which you signed into law. We've had millionaires taxes. We've had Walmart taxes. We've had the 4th highest personal income tax rate in the country. We've become a tax hell for business folks. And Virginia is taking advantage of it. The Maryland Chamber of Commerce yesterday, you may have seen the news this morning, Governor, that we're now 4th out of 4 in the Mid-Atlantic region with regard to any variety of business criterion. Business people escape Maryland. That's right. Well, the sales tax is relevant to this. You passed the most regressive tax that a governor could, a sales tax. Hurts poor people, working people disproportionately. You passed the largest tax increase in Maryland history. First of all, Matt, as a predicate, I believe that we're going to have more people consume in Maryland, so we're not going to have the tax loss that a static analysis would have you believe. I believe in dynamic analysis. When Governor O'Malley passed the millionaire's tax, that great class warfare tax, they scored that tax at $106 million to be brought into our state. We lost $257 million. We lost 33% of our qualifying families, and Montgomery County particularly was hammered. Class warfare is not good economics. It costs us jobs. It costs us business reputation. It costs us what we really should be about. This state should be leading the country. We have the smartest people, per capita PhDs, per capita college graduates. A sales tax hurts retail Maryland. It hurts border Maryland.
Just again, the question is, if it is dropped from 6% to 5%, we're going to lose a lot of money, even if people consume more. So what do you do to make up the shortfall?
Well, first of all, as I said, I don't believe we're going to lose that much money because people will consume more. And we'll just get into the budget, obviously, and I suspect we'll get into the budget here as well. It's come time for real. Governors around the country, candidates around the country are talking real with regard to the budget. It's time for pension reform. and you know it, although we've been kicking that can down the alley in Annapolis for many years. We can reconfigure state agencies. At any particular time, there's 1,000 to 4,000 empty funded job positions in Maryland. We need an innovative governor, as we did the first time under the Mandel Commission, and I believe you recall saying very positive things about the Mandel Commission recommendations as well.
Okay, we're going to move on to
we really
question.
care about our tax and tort and regulatory environment. They are the constituent elements of what makes your state either pro-business or anti-business.
Thank you. So we're going to go on now to a question from the online audience, and we've actually gotten hundreds of questions, and several of them asked both of you, do you have any plans for youth programs or youth jobs? Governor O'Malley first.
Yes, and I believe the answer to the last question asked repeatedly was he has no idea how he'd make up the 700, 800 million. We've done a number of things thanks to President Obama's courageous leadership in preventing our country from sliding into the Second Great Depression. And I think all of us can agree that we've lost a lot of jobs in our country, and we need to continue to work hard. But President Obama helped us getting more summer jobs happening in our state. And we've also created something called the Civic Conservation Corps in our state, where we serve about 600, 700 young people and get them doing important works in our parks and our state parks, repairing trails and streams and doing things of that nature. We work with all of our individual offices of employment development in order to get young people to work. We also are improving our career and technical education offerings that we have in our high schools, because in this new economy where you have to earn in order to learn, and learning is a lifelong process, we want to make sure that when our children come out of high school, they have not only the ability to go on to college in terms of their levels or their scholastic levels, but we want them to have the ability to get a job. And so those are a couple of the things that we have done on youth jobs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Governor Ehrlich.
I guess your idea of getting the budget corrected is simply to ask the federal government for more dollars, which has been the MO in Annapolis over the past 4 years. And by the way, the spigot is stopping November 2nd. That will be the message from the American people and the people of Maryland as well. With regard to jobs, it's all about jobs. JOBS is the issue in this campaign, whether you're young or old. We want young people to stay in Maryland. So that jobs environment we discussed earlier is a key, not only to young people, but middle-aged people, people that need retrained because their business may have closed or the economy changed. I would ask respectfully every listener today, everybody watching on TV, to compare the jobs environment, the numbers under our administration to the O'Malley administration. Under 4% unemployment, one of the best and fastest job creation records in the country, a very positive business reputation. When I was elected governor, the question to the business community was, is Maryland pro-business? Does Maryland create jobs? The answer was in the low 30s. When I left the governorship, the answer was in the 70s. It's now returned to the 30s because of the issues that we've talked about already in this debate. For young people to stay in the state, we need to create a positive environment, a culture of entrepreneurship, and
Thank
we need
you,
to
Governor.
make sure...
We're going to close out this section, I'm sorry, with just one quick question, and then we're going to move on to another section.
Governor Ehrlich, I have to ask you this. You've been criticizing Governor O'Malley over and over again, saying he's going to raise taxes. But in a time when our economy is crazy, nobody can predict what's going to happen. Does it make sense to issue a blanket statement saying, no matter what happens, if I got to furlough Maryland workers for 10 weeks, I'm not going to raise taxes? Does that make sense?
$32 billion budget. We do not raise taxes. You do not hammer taxpayers. You do not hammer small business people. You do not hammer entrepreneurs in one of the worst recessions in our country's history. National unemployment rate, 9.5. Maryland doubled over the past year. We've lost 3,000 small businesses. It's the last time you want to talk about even raising taxes. People are feeling the hurt. Middle class, working class, poor people have been really hit by the sales tax, by the increases in fees throughout our university system, by the way, increased 35% over the past 4 years. The last thing the American taxpayer wants to hear today is about taxes.
Mary,
is that a no? Is that no?
That's a no, and that's
okay.
a blanket no. And
So
I'm the
just
only candidate giving a blanket no today.
Okay.
May I respond briefly?
Yes,
to
very
these things?
briefly.
Thank you. The former governor's credibility on this issue is non-existent. He made the same pledges 8 years ago, and when you got in, you raised the property tax, you raised college tuitions by 40%, you raised 30 different tolls and fees. You imposed a new tax called the flush tax. I don't recall you ever sending away one federal dollar that came to Maryland at that time. And furthermore, during your 4 years, we actually lost our share of the nation's jobs was actually declining. During these tough years, our share of the nation's jobs have been rising. And you're always talking down Maryland. I don't think that's good for business. I don't think that's good for job creation. Under your leadership,
thank you, Governor O'Malley. You're going to have a chance to talk a little bit more of that.
Yes. Respond to that, because that's the stuff that's been on TV that drives people down, that depresses people, that makes people cynical about politics and politicians. We have a right to expect better from the chief executive of the state.
You raised the property tax, Bob.
You know, Governor,
you raised 30 different tolls and fees.
I think we have.
You increased by $3 billion,
actually my time,
and you had the biggest increase in state spending of any governor in a 4-year period.
I think we have.
Governor Ehrlich respond
I
here.
think we have focused on the problem. The governor doesn't understand the fundamentals of state government. The state, it appears.
Please hold your applause. Please hold all comments.
Proof: the governor doesn't set the property tax rate. Fees are not taxes, have nothing to do with the general fund. And by the way, the largest fee there is the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Act. So I'd ask you to tell the people of Maryland how you claim to be an environmentalist. You run around to all these press conferences and claim credit for septic upgrades, sewer treatment plant upgrades, and cover crops. And where do you think those dollars come from? Those same fees that you're campaigning against. The people of Maryland need to understand this.
That I'd repeat
Third, with regard to college tuition, let's talk about it. It's the subject of a lot of misreporting, 30-second attack ads on TV. The cost of tuition at our university system schools has gone up dramatically over the past 4 years. Not tuition, associated fees. You'd like to talk about fees? 35%.
We're going to talk about this.
to 22,000
okay.
over the past 4 years.
Thank you both. We're going to now move on to a section. Excuse me. We're going to now, many of the viewers live in the Washington area. They live in Montgomery County, Prince George's County, just two of the largest jurisdictions that Maryland has in our area. So I want to ask each of you to tell us one thing that you would do as governor over the next 4 years that would specifically benefit Montgomery County, and then a separate one thing that would specifically benefit Prince George's County residents. And Governor O'Malley, please begin.
Only one, huh?
Only one. Just something that you promised to do that would really help Montgomery County residents, and then something that would help Prince George's County
So only
residents.
one. So I can't talk about protecting record investments in public education and record investments in
That's
school
right. You can't.
So
you can if you want.
So if I have to choose only one, and I can't pick those things for making college more affordable, I would say moving forward with a better balance on mass transit, moving forward with the Purple Line, which will actually benefit both Montgomery County and Prince George's. And Prince George's County specifically is finding and forging the partnership that allows us to create a world-class hospital at Prince George's County Hospital for the future.
Great, thank you. No, please hold your applause until the end. Governor Ehrlich.
I want to build the Purple Line in a way that I can look you in the eye and say we can plan it, we can fund it, we can build it, and people will use it. And that's obviously Rapid Bus. And that was our planned alternative during our administration. Governor O'Malley can talk about light rail all day long. Red Line in Baltimore, Purple Line in D.C. Can't fund it. Can't tell you how he would fund it. It's been around for decades. Kind of like that ICC you weren't too proud of when you were mayor, but suddenly now you've blessed it. And by the way, I think the Ehrlich ICC might be the appropriate name for that road.
Thank you. Matt has another question about the Washington, D.C. area.
You've already jumped onto the Purple Line, talking about it, the importance of the line in both Montgomery and Prince George's counties, and you both have different plans for it.
Yes, we do.
Yours is Rapid Bus, yours is light rail. We'll start with Governor Ehrlich. Why is your plan the more viable of the two?
This is a really interesting philosophical difference between us, and I understand why Governor O'Malley might support light rail. The fact of it is, however, Matt, if you look at what's happened over the past few years, what's happening in D.C. today, we have mass transit broken in Maryland. We have MARC broken, and we have Metro, and Metro Matters. And we funded Metro Matters, and obviously the Washington Post gave you a hard time with regard to your stance on Metro Matters in the past. I can, as I said, look in the eye and say, we can build it, we can fund it, and people will use it. With regard to scarce resources, in this time of scarce resources, we should fix what's broken first, then build what we can on time so that people aren't so cynical about waiting 60 years for their county connector, for example. People will use Rapid Bus. It will be popular. Not everybody, as you know, in this community is for the light rail alternative. We just simply have a philosophical difference on this issue.
Thank you.
Well, Governor O'Malley needs to tell us how he's going to pay for that.
Sure.
You talk about light rail and why you think it's a better option and how it will be
Right.
paid for.
This has been the subject of a lot of engineering studies. It's been the subject of a lot of hearings, and all of the local preferences from Prince George's County, from Montgomery County, County Executive Ike Leggett was for the Purple Line to be light rail. And the reason for that is this, that while it's a little more expensive to build up front, it is less expensive to operate over the long term, and it has a bigger economic and job-creating impact that is beyond just the building of the line itself, which is why the Greater Washington Board of Trade has supported the Purple Line, why they supported our campaign as well. So the Purple Line, doing it as a bus rapid transit is a bit of a metaphor for the former Ehrlich administration. It's more expensive and it's less effective. So that's why we're in favor of the light rail. The way we build this is we have already put $90 million into the 6-year capital plan for the planning and the engineering and the design up front. The federal government will need to decide which of these lines go forward or if both go forward, the Purple Line and the Red Line in Baltimore. What remains to be filled in is whether the federal government will partner with us on a 50-50 basis, on an 80-20 basis, and we're going to have to do a number of things to get this financed, including probably looking at some tax incremental financing, also looking at public-private partnerships like the one that we pulled off and concluded in the Port of Baltimore. But we still have the capacity to do big, meaningful, and important things for our region.
Thank you.
Derek, you did not get an answer to your question. TIFs don't get you there. The only thing that gets you there is a massive gas tax increase or some major infusion of dollars in the Transportation Trust Fund, which you have not talked about in the course of this campaign.
Derek has a new question.
We're talking about billions of dollars here.
Well, speaking of billions of dollars, let's talk about something you mentioned, Governor, and that's the pension issue.
Yes.
Since 2002, Maryland has never fully funded the pensions of its government workers, and now you're $35 billion behind, and I don't see a plan from either one of you to how you're going to fix this over the next few years when budgets are as tight as they are. How are you going to come up with the money to make sure that the government workers get their pensions and get their health care?
It's time for honest and blunt and upfront on this subject, and it might be politically risky, but that's the way it is. With regard to people you haven't hired yet, with regard to people who have not invested in the system, the era of defined contribution is here, and everybody knows it. It
You're
came
saying
to the private
401k
sector.
plans.
Correct. For the people you haven't hired yet. With regard to people who are vested in the system, regard to present employees, you're not going to touch them. That's a legal vested right they have, and obviously it's illegal and immoral to touch that. But the era of defined contribution plans came to the private sector in the 1980s. It must come to the era of the public sector, because if it does not, those people who are vested, who have made lifetime decisions with regard to the income flow over their senior years, they're not going to receive those dollars. Secondly, with regard to teachers' retirement, President Mike Miller, over the years, has talked about sharing the burden. Now, with the locals, I'm talking about, as you know, which is a major issue in Annapolis, the third rail, everybody's scared to death to talk about it. We're not.
Thank you.
I just don't know where you're going to get the $35 billion.
I guess, well, my point is, I just answered part of it.
Right.
And the teacher retirement, obviously, is a major issue here as well. It's part of what you're talking about. By the way, when I left, we were close to 100%. We were in the 90s vested. Now we're in the 60s. That's not his fault, Governor O'Malley's fault. That's the market and the downturn. But the fact of it is, you have to begin the discussion with regard to sharing with the subdivisions in Annapolis. I think they're ready for it. You have to do it fairly, incrementally. It has to be done in balance, and it can't be done overnight.
Thank you.
Governor O'Malley.
Where to begin? This is a complex and difficult challenge, and we have appointed a commission in statute to come up with recommendations, and they're working right now. The difficulty here, Derek, of course, is, and there are many of them, but we need to do the responsible thing, and we need to do it in a responsible way. Ideology will not solve this problem. We have to...
Governor, I hate to cut you off, but Governor Ehrlich has stepped out and said, basically, defined benefit plans for government workers in Maryland should come to an end. Do you support that idea for balancing this?
No, I don't. I think what we have to do is wait for the Commission to put its menu of options, and it will be a combination of things, I'm sure. We've had a better performance this year on our investments, a better rate of return, 14%. And trying to predict what that variable is going to be into the future is part of this difficult work. But we know that we have to address it. We have to bring people together to address it. It was something that the former governor never even took a shot at addressing during the 4 years that he was in, when that gap continued to grow every year. The first order of business when I was elected was attacking the structural deficit that the former governor left to us of $1.7 billion. And then the recession hit us, and we've been protecting our priorities, but mindful of the fact that we do need to bring people together to address the long-term sustainability of our pension obligations, and we need to do it in a responsible way with everyone at the table. I am not in favor, nor am I in favor of privatizing Social Security. I don't think ideology is going to solve this complex problem. We need to bring people together with dignity and respect, look at the menu of options, and figure out a way to move forward.
I don't know how many cliches can be placed into one sentence, but you just set the record. Leaders lead. Politicians give you that. That's the difference in this election, what you just heard.
Matt has a question.
All right, let's talk some football. Here in the district, the movement is slowly growing and will only increase in the next 4 years to bring the Redskins back into the city from where they currently play in Maryland. As governor, would either of you, if anything, offer the Redskins to stay in Prince George's County? And I'll start with Governor Ehrlich.
Well, the owner of the Redskins is an Ehrlich fan, so and a contributor, and I'm proud of that fact. So we'll have those discussions. Obviously, having two franchises in Maryland is fantastic. There are issues with regard to the stadium. As we all know, traffic is a mess. It's an all-day affair, and Redskins fans are some of the best in the country. We know that. So that would have to be a function of discussions with Mr. Snyder and with the relevant players in Prince George's County and players in Annapolis as well. Obviously, we love having two franchises located in Maryland. It helps. I understand it's the Washington Redskins, and RFK was a fantastic environment for professional football. Been to a number of games there. But as I said, there's no clear answer to this. We'll see where the franchise wants to go, where the owner wants to go, and what the taxpayers have to say about it as well.
Governor O'Malley?
I don't know what the answer is to that question, but we would like to keep the Redskins stadium, the Redskins playing in Prince George's County.
Okay.
It's the first time we've been asked that question, by the way.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to switch gears a little bit again. Governor O'Malley, is there anything, what would you say is the most important thing in your background that prepared you for being governor? Was it being a songwriter and vocalist in a Celtic band that toured the state? Was it being father of four, or Baltimore mayor, or something else? Something in your background that really helped in the governor's mansion?
Wow. Probably my upbringing by two of the most loving and caring people that God ever put on this planet, my parents, Tom and Barbara O'Malley. That's probably the most important thing. Now, I guess one of the perspectives I've been able to bring to this job in these most difficult of times is that I grew up in the Washington area, and then I moved to Baltimore in law school and met the love of my life and therefore stayed. And I have a perspective that of both metropolitan areas. I understand the challenges faced by moms and dads in Montgomery County and Prince George's County, and I also have I've also been blessed to have served as mayor in the city of Baltimore and see the potential there. So I suppose that understanding of both regions is something that has served me well, but most important are the values that I was raised with, a belief in hard work, a belief in making the tough choices, and a belief that we're all in this together.
And Governor Ehrlich, same question to you. What is it that you did before you were governor that really helped you while you were governor? Was it being the captain of the football team at Princeton, a talk show host, member of Congress, something else? Something else. What is it in your background that really helps while you're in the governor's mansion?
Clearly, the predicate here is, I share with Governor O'Malley, it's loving parents and being raised in Arbutus. Part Arbutus, part Princeton is me. I guess that defines me. But to answer your question, being elected to the legislature at a young age, learning the craft, understanding the committee system, understanding how Annapolis works, Congress a little less so. Clearly, that experience of 8 years in the Maryland General Assembly, when there were no Republicans around and I was adopted by senior Democratic leaders down there, I was included in the backroom group, the small groups that decide which issues go to the House floor. I was included on conference committees. I, again, was befriended and adopted by senior Democratic leaders, that great conservative, moderate, pro-business wing of the Democratic Party that used to dominate Annapolis before the last 10, 15 years. That experience was priceless. It prepared me to go to Congress. It prepared me to be governor, and I'll never forget it.
Thank you. So now we're going to have a variety of questions, and Matt is going to start with one on immigration.
To Governor O'Malley, a very hot-button issue. Would you support cutting state funding to any group in Maryland that receives state funding if it is proven that they aid or harbor illegal aliens?
If it's proven that they aid or harbor illegal aliens, you know what I think is the problem with our nation today is the politics of fear and division, the politics that tries to shift blame for what is a lack of comprehensive immigration reform. No, we will not support groups that conspire to break the law. But let's be honest here. We're talking about a nation that has not been able to come to a consensus on immigration reform. People who are here should have a pathway for becoming citizens, for obeying all laws, and paying their taxes. New Americans, and every wave of new Americans, has made our nation a better place. Sadly, as a political football, there is this nativism rising up and this desire to blame new Americans for the problems in our economy. New Americans didn't run Wall Street into the ground. New Americans didn't destroy our savings. New Americans didn't manipulate intelligence information to get us into conflicts that we might not otherwise have gotten into. And I think we need to look at each other and accord each other dignity and respect as we work through comprehensive immigration reform. Only the federal government can protect our borders. They need to do a better job. But Congress needs to do a better job of coming together for comprehensive immigration reform.
Matt, leaders answer questions. Governors answer questions. Leaders lead. Glenn, again, the cliches are just too much. You have done that. The answer, your correct answer is yes. You, in fact, celebrated Casa de Maryland. Now, if Casa de Maryland actually was interested in fulfilling its original mandate, which was to help assimilation of what you call new Americans.
Right.
By the way, if somebody breaks into my house, is that a new member of my family that night? That's not new Americans. Illegals. If you're illegal and you know Casa de Maryland has used tax money to produce booklets to assist illegal immigrants from the reach of the law, you know that, and you were there celebrating the opening of that building. It is wrong. The American people, with all due respect, it is my time here. Matt, the answer is we really do have to draw the line in this country. I agree with the governor in one small respect. It has been a bipartisan failure at the federal level. Republican administrations, Democrat administrations have failed in this regard. But to pretend new Americans, use that term, when you're really referring to illegal immigrants, is wrong. With regard to legal immigration, we should welcome new immigrants. We are about assimilation. That's what this culture is about. When we talk about multiculturalism, we have a multi-ethnic society, but we are a singular American culture premised on English, democracy, capitalism, equal opportunity, living the American dream. I'm living it, you're living it. But we did it the right way, our families. We have to do it the right way. This has been a terrible failure in Annapolis. Governor O'Malley, I vetoed in-state tuition. He supports it. He signed into law a bill that gave illegals 6 years to comport with federal law. We have literally a two-tier license system in this state. It's wrong. And Casa de Maryland is the gross example of what this sort of mindset leads us to. It's not nativism.
Disagree.
It's not nativism. It's not
Excuse me,
ethnocentrism.
we have to move on now to
it's following the law.
question.
Sovereignty must mean something. That's what this election cycle is all about.
Improving health outcomes, making sure that people can deliver their children with prenatal care. I don't find that clothing people and making sure that we reach out with basic dignity and services is something un-American. And I think that's a gross and unfair mischaracterization.
The law.
Okay.
Can you please hold the applause until the end?
Matt, the law requires those services to be provided. Nobody has a problem with that.
Thank you. Derek.
I was going to ask something else, but I'm going to get to this because this conversation reminded me very much of what you guys threw back and forth with each other at your last debate, and then we began to hear about coded words and racism, and you said, Governor Ehrlich, that Governor O'Malley came very close to calling you a racist in that last conversation.
I said he came very close to playing the race card.
He came very close to playing the race card. Is he playing the race card? What do you mean by that? When you talk about cities, when you talk about urban, when you talk about these things, a lot of people take that to mean black people.
We have to be unafraid. You know that. We have to be unafraid to care about Baltimore City schools. We care in different ways, I guess. We have different remedies. But you have to be unafraid today. When I talk about race, when race gets brought up, the audience gets silent. Everybody gets real nervous. We have an African-American president. Enough of this. We need to talk and have these debates. We disagree on a lot of things. That's what's great about this campaign. We disagree on just about everything. That's what politics is about. That's good. But I'm not going to put up with being treated as I was begun to be treated, at least in the last debate, with respect to race. Those 11 schools we talked about in Baltimore City were dysfunctional. The kids that were being deprived of their constitutional rights were mostly African American. That's not right. It's not a discretionary function of government. It's a matter of the Constitution. We need to care about these kids. We all care. But it was very difficult, I guess, for the O'Malley administration, some members of the Black Caucus, Teacher Association, whatever, to pretend otherwise because there's an election year. It was inconvenient. And I certainly wasn't going to put up with that card being played by a mayor who allowed the arrest of lots and lots, hundreds, thousands of African Americans in Baltimore City. 1 in 6 citizens of the city of Baltimore arrested. And most, by the way, just thrown out. Just arrested, taken off the street, and thrown out. That is, talk about deprivation of constitutional rights. I wasn't going to put up with it. I'll never put up with it in my life, let alone politics.
Governor O'Malley, were you calling him a racist when you said that? And again, this is under the idea that as a governor, he was going to take over those schools, those 11 schools he's talking about, and as mayor, you didn't like that. So there was
I didn't, because we were starting finally to make progress in city schools. We have, as a state, because of the tough choices and the increased funding for education, we've actually, in recent years, cut the achievement gap between black and white students in half in elementary reading and math. The former governor has said that he would cut education funding that would put big holes in the school budgets of Montgomery and Prince George's County. How on earth is that going to help us improve our schools by cutting education funding? And I do believe that there is a calculation of blaming the city for the challenges that we face as a people, blaming newly arriving Americans for the challenges we face as a country in order to take people's eye off the ball of the fact that it was his party and former President Bush that drove our economy into a ditch. And I think that it is unhealthy for us to turn on one another and practice that politics of division and fear. I believe that we are all in this together.
4 points, real quick. You got your mandatory President Bush mentioning. Congratulations. Secondly, GCI, the program he's talking about, he didn't fund either. Stimulus dollars came in to fund that. He didn't think it was very important to fund. In fact, I got an interesting headline from the Annapolis Capital, O'Malley to reduce education spending with regard to that particular program, 2007. You're not very consistent there. Third, with regard to those schools, these are schools, these are not regular schools. These schools were graduating relatively few percentage of their kids, and they were passing kids proficiency ratings at 4 and 8, 10, 12, 15%.
Do you not
let's give Governor O'Malley about 30 seconds to respond.
Okay, and fourth, wait a second, I get one, my last.
Actually, she said it was my turn.
Then you'll have 40 seconds.
You can have as much time as you want, because you can't explain it. It wasn't a takeover. Our plan, Nancy Grasmick's plan was, which was our plan, was go public charter, and I believe you didn't even know what public charter schools were last time you were before the Washington Post editorial board, or private vendor. That's the answer to those schools. You were depriving those kids of their constitutional rights, and that's not right.
9 years ago, not one grade in Baltimore City scored majority proficient in reading or math. today grades 1 through 8 are majority proficient in reading and math. It is a school system that is improving, and that is recognized by people all around the country. There are very few major cities that are improving as well as Baltimore City is, and that's what this is about. It's about outcomes for kids. It's about achievement. It's not about constantly putting the city down and city children down. I have never, ever heard you say one kind thing about the progress that was made over in city schools. I've never heard you even acknowledge the fact that Baltimore achieved the third largest reduction in violent crime over the last 10 years.
I just want to follow up real quick with you, Governor. He suggested that you came very close to playing the race card. Do you have a response to that?
Yeah, I find it almost bemusing the way the former governor is recasting his record and his deep concern, when all of us remember 4 years ago the shameful incident when homeless black men were put on a bus in Philadelphia and shipped to Prince George's County, left at polls to give out fraudulent election day information. And I find this sort of trashing of the city, this downing of poor people, I find it very offensive, and I think it's unbecoming of someone that would purport to lead our state.
You know what downs poor people? Raising the sales tax. That's what downs
Just
poor
a second. Let's go to online questions. There have been many that were phrased in different ways, but the gist of which were, it has been said that you two don't like each other very much.
Who said that?
Why would anyone get that idea?
I'm not sure. But this person wants to know, if each of you can, in your most positive, chivalrous way, could you describe how your opponent has done something to move Maryland forward? Who wants to start?
Why don't you start?
I think that the implementation of the flush tax was a good thing. We could debate over how progressive it was when the wealthiest among us pay the same $250 a month as a senior citizen on a fixed income. But I would say that was a good move forward for Maryland and the health of the Bay.
You know, I'm going to say, and I appreciate that very much, because it is a big-time positive step for our Chesapeake Bay. You know what I admire about him? He does this. This is tough. This is not easy. You know, nobody deserves a medal for this, but putting yourself out there, putting your ego out there, putting your family out there. We both have young kids. We see the TAC commercials, our kids. This isn't easy to do. Sitting before the American public, TV, radio, having the criticisms, public life. Many commentators see public life as relatively easy. You get to live in a nice house, right? I lived there for 4 years too. And there's perks, there's no doubt about it. But every day you go out there and your chief executive, you are answerable to everyone, 6.5 million people. You go out there, I had to talk to Kendall, my kids, about running again. Because I know the criticisms, the attack ads.
Let's talk about how much you admire.
So my point is, I really like that. This is really, this is a nice thing, and I mean it. For any public official, particularly at this level, to run at this level and put yourself in this position is not easy, particularly given our situation with young kids and very successful wives. So, and I would say that the governor has gone around and talked a lot about the cover crops and those sewer treatment plants and the phosphorus and nitrogen issues with respect to the Bay and getting the farmers back involved. We have to do that, and that's a good thing too, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, these are specific to each of you. You get to answer this on your own, but they deal with the same thing, no longer the relationship that you have with talking to each other, but with the local leaders in the D.C. suburbs. We'll start with Governor Ehrlich. To put it mildly, your relationship with the local leaders in Montgomery and Prince George's counties can be termed frosty. If you return to Annapolis, how are you going to work with them?
Well, my relationship with the local leaders during my tenure was pretty good. Jack Johnson, Doug Duncan, and don't take my word for it, ask them. Particularly ask Jack Johnson to compare and contrast how Prince George's County has been treated by the Ehrlich administration as opposed to the O'Malley administration. I won't call him, I promise, Matt, but I'll go with his answer, if he'll tell you. I think he will. With regard to Doug Duncan, he was running against me, and we became friends. And that's what politics should be about, by the way. We built the Intercounty Connector when you were against it.
I was not against it.
Well, we'll have to go back. The fact checkers are going to have a good time on this one, as they did the first time. And you were 0 for 5 that time, by the way, first debate. So the fact of it is, particularly with regard to Montgomery, we had a terrific relationship with Doug. Got a lot of things done. I was the former co-chair of the House Biotechnology Caucus in the Congress of the United States. So we sort of have that together. We care about biotechnology, nanotechnology, cyberspace command, BRAC, we brought BRAC here, but particularly Prince George's County. Ask the elected officials, ask Sam Dean, ask Derek Davis, ask those folks how the Ehrlich administration treated this county as opposed to the O'Malley administration. I'll go with their answer.
Okay. And for Governor O'Malley, the national mood this campaign season has been voters want to see a more diversity of thought among their leaders. There is not one elected Republican in Montgomery or Prince George's counties, and the State House and the State Senate are both controlled by Democrats. If you're reelected, one-party rule continues in Maryland. Why do you view that as a good thing?
I think regardless of party, what we have to have is leadership that's on our side, that brings us together, that serves no special interest but the public interest, and is able to make sure that people, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, are brought together to face these very challenging problems that we have. And that each of us served in different times. In much easier times, the former governor was not able to get much done, could not forge any consensus. He increased state spending by more than any other governor in Maryland history, and he also increased $3 billion in different taxes and fees, but there wasn't a whole lot of progress to show for it. In tougher times, we were able to bring people together to address the big deficit that we were left, and yet we've also made progress. We have greatly increased school construction, which when he was in office in easier times, he chose to cut, that went to Prince George's County. We have increased school construction in Prince George's County to an all-time record high of 67% increase. We have increased school operating funding for Prince George's County to an all-time high of $4.1 billion. We have, in the toughest of times, sustained Prince George's County Hospital, and much tougher times than what he had, we've actually increased by 4 times the amount of support that goes to Prince George's County Hospital. But the key to any leadership is not partisanship, ideology, dividing people, turning them on each other. It's about bringing people together.
Matt, did you get your answer, Matt?
Thank you, Governor. We're having so much fun,
Wow.
but we're starting to run out of time.
We need another hour.
So
We do need another hour. I demand another hour.
I would love to do that. But now we've entered our rapid fire questions, okay? We just have a few minutes left, so please, this is the part now, just the last few questions, if you could just keep your answers quite short.
All right, I'll ask one. Here in D.C., they allow gay marriage. What do you think about gay marriage in Maryland? Should it be, if someone's married in D.C., should they be able to have that marriage recognized in Maryland?
No.
And what about...
Firmly opposed.
Firmly opposed to
Governor
recognizing it or allowing it?
Correct, both.
Governor
And voted that
O'Malley.
way in Congress. I do think, however, bundles of rights should attach to non-traditional relationships. We passed that bill when I was governor.
I supported the Attorney General's decision that we should recognize those marriages in Maryland, and furthermore, I think that what we need to focus on is protecting rights equally. Were a bill to come to me that protects rights equally, regardless of the label applied to that union, provided there were protections for religious freedom, I would sign that bill.
Okay, in one sentence, this is another online question from Bill in Frostburg. How do you propose we can make the Baltimore Orioles better?
Power hitting first baseman, another starter, and we're going to be there.
Great. Governor Mill.
Practice, practice, practice.
Very quickly, to put it mildly, Pepco had a bad summer in the D.C. suburbs, and their decline occurred during both of your terms as governor. Quickly, what can you do to make sure the power stays on?
Yeah, I directed the Public Service Commission to do an investigation on that, and they will be coming out with recommendations. I believe, not to presuppose what their recommendations might be, I think we need reliability standards. I think that the carriers in this deregulated market have an obligation to provide reliability, and when they don't do it, there should be consequences.
You have an obligation to be honest about utility rates, and you should have known or knew you were demagoguing on the BG issue last campaign, and now you've been found out. That's for sure.
The one that went up 72% under you. After your folks bragged about giving our Public Service Commission a lobotomy?
When I was in
Is that
Congress,
the one that you're talking about?
When I was in Congress, you mean when the bill passed, and you promised 72%, and it went up 80, and you said, sorry, Didn't mean it.
Actually, you were the one that saddled us with that, Governor.
Matt, here's
and
the
your
deal.
folks bragged about giving the
Governor,
public
in
service commission
1999, just check the record. I was in Congress. Trust me, I didn't draft that bill. That was Mike Miller and your leadership, and you were silent on it, and everybody knows
Actually,
it.
I oppose the deregulation.
Here we are again. I'm sorry, Matt, but
That's all right.
you know what? That's a real important issue, and you're demonizing
Sure is.
demagoguing on that issue. It will stop in 3 weeks, trust me. Matt,
Please hold your applause.
Please. Yeah, sure. Don't have a lot of time.
reliability obviously makes sense. And appropriate oversight from the Public Service Commission, those big raises, they should be working harder these days, trust me on that.
Okay, last question really briefly. You've both been in the public eye a very long time. Can you tell us one thing that most people might not know?
I'm really good on 70s and late 60s music trivia. I'm not a very good musician. He beats me there.
Who's your favorite late 60s musician?
Stylistics, early Philadelphia Soul, 70s. And Stylistics actually were, I had them play at the Republican National Convention when Mike spoke.
Now,
And they
you're
were
a
my favorite.
songwriter. We're starting music. You can take this however, whichever way you want. Tell us something that people might not know about you or your favorite songs.
Oh, golly. Favorite song, something that they might not know about me. My wife says that I work too hard and that I need to come home earlier more nights of the week. As far as favorite songs, I don't know. I think I'll pass.
Okay. And now we're going to head into our closing statements. We've asked you to keep these brief, and Governor O'Malley is going to go first.
Thanks very, very much, Mary, and to Derek and Matt and to everyone here for sponsoring this exchange of ideas. Our country is in a fight, and it's a fight for our economic future. It's a fight for our children's future. And there are going to be some states that win in this change of our economy, and there will be some states that lose. The states that win will be the states that are able to bring people together in order to protect our priorities of education, affordable college, innovation, all of the things that are fueling this innovation economy in Maryland, with small and large businesses, family-owned and corporations alike, that are working on some of the most urgent problems facing us as a world. That innovation is also creating jobs every single day. In order to make this change, though, we need a governor who's on our side. The big banks, the big mortgage companies, the big utilities, the big casino interests have all of the lobbyists and government affairs specialists that money can buy. We need a governor who's on our side, who's able to bring people together, to be straightforward, to attack these complex problems, and move our state forward so we can be a winner in this new economy. I love the people of our state. I'm optimistic about our future if we have the courage to join together and move forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Governor. Governor Ehrlich.
To some extent, what you just heard is why I'm running, and those big casino interests are supporting you, not me. When the dust settles in this campaign, 250,000 Marylanders looking for work. We've lost 3,000 small businesses. We've had the largest tax increase in Maryland history. And we spent $23 billion more over the last 4 years than we did the prior 4 years. That is a dismal economic record. We can and should do better. When you really come down to it, why we do this, it's how the state views you. How the state views you. Do they look to you as a source of revenue enhancement, more dollars, more regulation, more government, or as a source of job creation to get those young folks back in the workforce, to get Maryland moving again? We'll compare and contrast our records, and Governor Mallory's been relitigating the past. Today, people are hurting. It's a serious time, folks. Record unemployment, record taxes, record debt. It's not the time for over-the-top, ludicrous, negative ads. People are hurting. Their small businesses have been hammered. Their 401ks have been halved. They're looking for leadership and vision. It's a serious time for serious people, serious dialogue by serious leaders, and I hope you saw that today from me. Thank you very much for watching, and Godspeed.
And this concludes the Maryland Governor's Debate, brought to you by Washington Post Live and our media partners WUSA 9, which is going to rebroadcast rebroadcast this tonight at 7 on their digital channel, and WAMU 88.5, which will air it tonight at 8. Thank you, Governor Martin O'Malley and former Governor Bob Ehrlich.